You probably deploy them thousands of times a day. Your entire pipeline, your scaling strategy, your production environment, they all rely entirely on this tech. But do you actually understand the fundamental architecture powering your infrastructure? We kind of treat these things as perfectly packaged black boxes, right? Just assuming that whatever goes in is safe, optimized, and immutable. Well, let's dive right into this explainer and see what's really going on. So what actually lives inside a Docker image? This isn't just some philosophical question, it's a high-stakes investigative one. When you type Docker pull or Docker run, what are you physically downloading to your disk? If we were to, slice open this black box that you trust implicitly with your company's most sensitive data and core logic, what exactly would we find living inside? To answer that, we first have to tackle the classic fresher-level interview question, images versus containers. A lot of people conflate the two, but they are completely different beasts. The image, that's your blueprint. It is a read-only, perfectly static template containing your stripped-down OS kernel, your runtime, and your application code. The container is the ephemeral, isolated, running process that's actually built from that exact blueprint. Basically, the image never changes. The container, however, lives, writes temporary data, and eventually dies. Okay, so now that we've separated the running process from the static blueprint, we need to zoom in. We're going down to the atomic level here to look at the internal mechanics of how an image is actually constructed on your disk. Now, what's really fascinating here is that it completely breaks the illusion of a Docker image being just one giant file. It's not. Notice how each of the layers represented here is a completely separate directory on your host's disk. An image is actually a physical stack of independent read-only layers stacked directly on top of each other. At the very top, you've got your container's thin read-write layer. But everything below that, that is your immutable image DNA. But wait, if it's just a bunch of separate directories stacked like pancakes, how does the application inside the container see a normal file system? Enter the Union File System, or AUFS as it was originally popularized. It essentially acts as a powerful optical illusion. It manages these multiple layered directories and stitches them together seamlessly. So the container looks down and just sees one unified, cohesive root file system. It has absolutely no idea it's standing on a stack of pancakes. And because of mount namespaces, it does this entirely in isolation, preventing these layered overlays from polluting your actual host environment. Let's move to one of the most brilliant, yet kind of misunderstood mechanics of Docker. Think about the whiteout file mechanism shown here. Let's say you're inside your running container and you decide to delete a file that exists in the base image. Because the underlying image layer is read-only, Docker can't actually go down there and delete it. So what does it actually do? It creates a whiteout file in your container's top read-write layer. The original file actually still exists on your disk in the layer below, taking up space, but the Union file system simply hides it from the container's view. Pretty clever, right? This brings us to a perfect mid-level interview question. How do these layers actually get created in the first place? Well, every single instruction in your Docker file mechanically creates a brand new, distinct layer. When you run a copy command to bring in your source code or an add command to pull in a remote tarball, Docker spins up a temporary container, executes that specific instruction, and then saves the resulting file system state as a completely new, permanent read-only layer in the stack. And understanding that mechanical, layer-by-layer creation process, that is the absolute key to unlocking massive optimizations in your workflow. Because in modern software development, time is quite literally money. If your CI/CD pipelines are taking 20 minutes to build an image for every single pull request, you are bleeding developer productivity. And this brilliantly illustrates how Docker solves that exact bottleneck. If you look at a standard build output, you'll often see that using cache text. When you run a Docker build, the daemon scans your Docker file top to bottom. Before it executes an instruction, it looks at the exact state of the stack up to that point. If the instruction hasn't changed, and the files it references haven't changed, Docker just says, hey, I already have a read-only layer on disk that matches this exact state. It skips the build step entirely and simply reuses the cached layer. So, the crucial point here is that maximizing your CI/CD build speed is entirely about structuring your Docker files to take advantage of this caching behavior. By keeping frequently changing instructions like copying in your application code at the very bottom of your Docker file and stable instructions like installing OS packages at the top, you ensure maximum cache reuse. In ephemeral cloud environments, utilizing layer caching features can slash your build times by over 40%. In extreme cases, we're talking about taking a 20-minute build down to just 15 seconds. That drastically reduces your compute overhead and saves your engineering teams hours of waiting every single week. Okay, let's zoom out a bit. We've dissected the atomic structure of an image on a disk. Now we need to shift to a senior level perspective. The macro view. Because these layered images don't just sit on your laptop, right? They travel across the open internet, literally forming the backbone of the modern software supply chain. To move these images around, we use image registries. Just to clarify the terminology really quick, a registry is the actual hosting service, like the public Docker Hub, which serves billions of polls, or a private on-premise server. A repository is the specific library within that registry, like Ubuntu or Node. Now, when you push an image, Docker is smart enough to only upload the specific layers that the registry doesn't already have. This shared layer architecture is exactly what makes pushing and pulling incredibly efficient over the network. But pulling images from a remote registry introduces one of the most dangerous concepts in containerization: tagging. If you get asked about CI/CD tagging strategies in a senior engineering interview, this is exactly the breakdown you need to visualize. Most folks just use the default latest tag, which is incredibly high risk because it constantly changes. Best practice dictates using semantic versioning, like pinning Alpine 3.211.1. But here is the terrifying truth. Image tags are fundamentally mutable. A publisher can quietly overwrite that 3.211 tag to point to a completely different image tomorrow. The only truly bulletproof strategy is content addressable tagging, where you pin the exact SHA-256 digest of the image. Because if you don't use immutable digests, you're opening yourself up to massive supply chain vulnerabilities. Just imagine writing a Docker file that perfectly compiles your app today. 3 months from now, your CI pipeline rebuilds it. If you used immutable tag, you might pull down an updated base image where the publisher slightly changed an underlying library. Your build breaks silently, your production deployment fails, and you have absolutely zero audit trail to figure out what changed, simply because the tag name looks exactly the same. This brings us to the highest stakes perspective we can take, the enterprise architect's view. Look, when you are managing thousands of nodes and tens of thousands of containers, the structural mistakes you make at the image level become absolutely catastrophic at scale. Let's rapid fire the anatomy of a compromised image. Using the latest tag in production, that's practically begging for an outage. Failing to build multi-platform images means your developers on Apple's Silicon can't even run the same containers as your Linux servers. But the cardinal sin, the absolute worst thing you can possibly do, is passing API keys or passwords using env instructions or build arguments. Remember those layers we talked about? If you bake a secret in, it becomes permanently etched into a read-only layer. Even if you try to delete it in a later step, anyone can use the Docker image history command and extract your raw production secrets in plain text. And honestly, that is literally how thousands of AWS accounts get compromised every single year. So, how do you actually secure a sprawling enterprise environment? You mandate strict image governance. Step 1. Enforce Docker Content Trust. This configures the Docker daemon so it literally refuses to run any image that hasn't been cryptographically signed by a trusted publisher. Step 2. Mandate content addressable storage for all base images, using those immutable SHA digests we just talked about. And Step 3. Standardize your entire organization on heavily stripped down, hardened base images, removing shell access and package managers entirely just to drastically reduce your attack surface. Ultimately, the core takeaway of this explainer comes down to a simple motto: trust but verify. A Docker image is not magic. It is a highly engineered, mechanically stacked set of read-only file systems managed by a union mount, tagged with mutable pointers and distributed over the open web. Understanding that physical architecture is the only way you can truly optimize it, and more importantly, it's the only way you can secure it. The next time you blindly copy a from instruction from a random tutorial and push it to your production cluster, I want you to visualize those layers stacking up on your host's disk. Look past the abstraction, because I have to ask, so, what's actually hiding inside your base images